Hello, the name is Osvaldo Antonio Nyaka, and welcome to another one of these short enlightenment videos where we explore the contents that make up human nature, or the contents which govern human nature, or as I would like to call it, the principles that govern human nature. And we just explore different ideas, different topics, and we walk away with some tools away from these videos which you can start implementing today and see what difference it can make in your own life. What are we going to be speaking about today? Today's topic is all about overcoming or dealing with unrealistic expectations. What unrealistic expectations are, how they drive different symptoms, different psychological symptoms within our consciousness and in our psychology, and how they also affect our day to day lives. What is an unrealistic expectation? An unrealistic expectation can take a form of you having a judgment perhaps on your success. Let's suppose that you have one of these moments where you believe that I should be more successful than where I am right now. If you look at it from a financial point of view, you could say, I should have more money than I do right now. If you look at it from a social point of view, you say, I should be having more friends than I do now, or I should be interacting with people that have social influence where I can make the greatest difference. If you look at it from a mental point of view, you say, well, I should know better. I should be able to perhaps have a higher state of consciousness where I'm enlightened, I'm perpetually in peace, and I've got no worries. And whenever things come to me, I am this yoga master that I'm always in a state of being in that state of, when you say wusa, and nothing affects you. And perhaps the other area could be the area of your relationship, where you believe that your relationship should have a higher success level than it does right now. And let's perhaps take another form, and this would be perhaps in your vocational aspect of your life, where you believe, well, maybe I should be doing something better than I'm doing right now, and that I shouldn't be where I am. That is one of those are perhaps examples of an unrealistic expectation. But the true definition of unrealistic expectation is to actually have a one-sided reality where everything is positive without the negative aspect of it. Anything that you have an unrealistic expectation on tends to create what I call a comparative language. A comparative language happens when you take a certain area of your life. For example, let's take the area of finances, where you say, I should be having more money than I do right now. And you take that and you compare that to somebody else, or you compare that to a past success. By you comparing the reality of where you are to something that is a fantasy, you then have this unrealistic expectation. And if you hold on to that unrealistic expectation long enough, it can actually lead to it being a delusional expectation on yourself and others, and perhaps even to the universe or the thing that you call God. That is now when you've taken it to the extreme, where you actually create these delusions around. And this actually happens when you are far removed from the truth that reality has two sides, and that you can't have one reality, you can't have a full reality without having two sides to it. So you tend to compare what your current reality is to a fantasy. Well, how does this come about? How do these unrealistic expectations build up to that level where you start to experience that? The first thing that I find, either doing one-on-one consultations or group consultations in trainings, is that if an individual does not know who they are, and in not knowing who they are, what their hierarchy of values are, what they deem to be most important, then they will not actually know why these unrealistic expectations come about. Let's suppose that you go in and you find out what your hierarchy of values are. And in your hierarchy of values, you find that the highest of your values has to do with socializing. Then second to socializing could be your mental aspect of your life. Then third, it then becomes a family aspect of your life. And now, because your hierarchy of values are in that form, then you take that and you compare it to somebody else who has a different form. Perhaps this person's highest value is financial success. And what they do every single day, they focus on financial success, they invest, they put all their monies into that business venture. They truly are focused in the financial aspect of their life. Then second to that, their value could be vocational. And vocational then means that they spend more time doing the things that bring them vocational success than they would in spending family time or socializing. That could perhaps be their second highest value. Then third to that could be their physical aspect of life. If they're not making money or working, then they're hitting the gym and working out. So because of that, they have a greater physical aspect on life. Then you have this unrealistic expectation that you should have as much money as this person does. But the truth is, unless you value finances or value making money, you're going to have less than this person. And you're going to perhaps compare yourself into that individual thinking, my success should be at the same level as that success. So what's happening internally is that you are comparing one form of success to another. So that's where the unrealistic expectation comes from. When you take one form of success and compare it to a different form of success, thinking that the two should match. They do match, they differ in form, but in essence, they're essentially the same. How do you deal with this comparison or comparative language or comparative state? And you find that this comparative state has this language of should, must, and have tos. Any time you find yourself or hear others speaking in this term of you must be doing this, you should be doing this, you have to be doing this, or I should be doing this, I must be doing this, I must be doing this to my highest potential. You are actually in the state of a comparative language. And that actually means that you are going outside of your values are. Because at your highest value point, the language that you use is want to and love to. Want to and love to are languages that are driven from within. And the shoulds, the musts, and have tos are actually driven from the outside. That means that these are injected values that are coming from the outside, trying to overtake what your highest and truest intrinsic values are. So anytime you speak of want tos and love tos, that actually means that you are operating from your highest value point. How do you then deal with this? Let's then suppose the unrealistic expectation that you're having has to do with in the form of your financial area of life, where you say, well, I should have more money than I do right now. But the reality is that your income or the money that you have is not at that level that you want it to be, or perhaps does not match that fantasy success that you have. What you then can do is take the current circumstances where you are right now from a financial point of view, or that success level that you are experiencing, where you're saying, well, I don't really enjoy it, I don't like it, and find ways to be grateful for the level that you are. And the question that you can ask there is actually, what benefits am I getting from this level of success? What are the benefits that I'm getting out of being at this level of success financially? If it is financial, it could be something else, but we're working with the example of financial success. What are the benefits that I'm getting out of this level of success when it comes to finances? And it's a funny thing that about 3 weeks ago, I had a one-on-one. I also do see a personal life coach from time to time, where we actually explore the DiMartini method. And within the method, we find different ways to work with it and find little insights that just help us in our coaching business and in our coaching career. And one of the things that we discovered within that is that sometimes we actually don't plan for our successes. That actually means that we plan or want to achieve success, but we sometimes don't plan what we're going to do with that success. So for instance, if I say I want to be a successful salesman who makes 30,000 per month, the currency in this instance doesn't matter because this video could be going out anywhere in the world. And you say, I want to achieve the 30,000 income per month. And by the moment you achieve that 30,000 per month, you don't actually say, well, what am I going to do with this success? 30,000 a month means when I get this income, I'm going to invest 10, I'm going to spend 15, and then the 5,000 will be for emergencies. So now you've actually are starting to plan for what you're going to do with that success level. So that when you're at that success level, you operate at that level. And this is essentially what we're trying to do, where we're not pre-planning it, but we're living the experience of the success level where you are. So find out what are the benefits of the success level that you have currently at the financial level. Go in there, find 20, 30, or 50 examples until you come to a state where you can say to yourself, well, I'm really grateful for this level of success that I have. Then the second part of that is to go into the fantasy where you're now perceiving that if I had this level of success, somewhat my reality would have been one-sided, where I would experience more happiness than sadness, more pleasure than pain, where you're trying to separate the two, and which we know by now that in reality you can't separate pleasure from pain. You go into the fantasy, find the pleasure point of if I would have had if I was succeeding at this level of finance, where you're believing that it would have this separation, where you'd have a higher joy than sadness. Go in there and actually find out what would have been the drawbacks to you if you actually had to have that level of success. So by finding the drawbacks to that fantasy, what will happen is you will actually calm the fantasy side of your brain down and that positive overthinking side of your brain and bring you back to reality, where it will take down and find the different bad examples, should I say, where you're then able to ground yourself and not over exaggerate yourself. Because remember that the unrealistic expectation is because we tend to over exaggerate ourselves or to over exaggerate our capabilities and what we can do. So what you're doing there is you're bringing down that over exaggeration, and now you're grounding yourself. And one of the examples that you could come up with there is that the more money you make, the less motivated you actually become to make more money. Psychologically, it's been proven that people who have money that meet all their needs, if you go to them and tell them, well, I'll give you an extra $100, they would actually compare and say, well, is the motivation good enough versus the money that I'm getting? Because the money that I'm currently receiving is serving me in all my purposes. So perhaps one of the drawbacks that you'll find there is that you wouldn't have been as driven as you are right now. You wouldn't be thinking of putting clients first or taking your business to the next level if you had that financial success. And because you wouldn't be driven to want to make a difference to other people, you'd perhaps have this inner voice telling you that you're not doing enough to serve humanity. You could become lazy, and that then affects your physical area of your life. By doing that and finding enough of those examples, you'll become more grounded so that you're not infatuated with that level of success. Then the third thing that I will urge you to actually do is to actually ask yourself, whose success am I comparing myself to? When I compare my success level, am I taking myself and saying, well, I should be as rich as Bill Gates by now. I should be as rich as Elon Musk or Patrice Motsepe at this stage of my life. If I'm comparing myself to him, it means that I'm taking my own power and giving it away to these individuals on the outside. And then you'd have to then go in there and actually find out, where is my true success in comparison to the gentlemen's or the people that you're comparing yourself to? And ask yourself, where is my success? Where is my greatest and the most gratifying success that I'm experiencing right now? By finding that, you're able to then compose yourself and bring yourself back to you, so you're no longer living in those illusions of success, or you actually are working on bringing down those delusions of unrealistic expectations. And the less unrealistic expectations you have, the more objective you can become. Because remember that objectivity is about taking positive and negative, bringing them both together so that you can become more objective in terms of your actions and what you do and how you think. And you're not subjective to either biases of trying to avoid pain and seeking pleasure. So the more objective you become with your reality, the better you can plan and see what actionable items you can take, and you take away that unrealistic expectation that you have on yourself and others and the world itself. So thank you very much for spending some time with me, and looking forward to speaking again.